Why most people confuse love with attachment. Love is one of the most talked about experiences in human life. People search for it, write about it, build their lives around it. And yet, despite all this attention, many relationships still become painful, confusing, and emotionally exhausting. Why? Because what many people call love is often something else entirely. Attachment, possession, dependency, fear of loss, need for validation. These emotions can feel intense, but intensity is not the same as love. Welcome to 10-Minute Books, the channel where we break down the world's most powerful books into practical lessons you can apply in everyday life. Today we explore a profound idea reflected across 3 influential works: The Road Less Traveled by M. Scott Peck, Attached by Amir Levine, and The Art of Loving by Erich Fromm. Why most people confuse love with attachment. M. Scott Peck begins with a difficult claim. Love is not primarily a feeling. It is an act of will, a commitment to nurturing another person's growth as well as your own. This immediately challenges modern assumptions, because many people define love emotionally: attraction, excitement, intensity. But Peck argues that these experiences are temporary states. They are not the foundation of lasting love. Real love involves effort, discipline, attention, responsibility, and perhaps most importantly, the willingness to support growth even when it is uncomfortable. Attachment is different. Attachment seeks security. It wants reassurance, stability, control. It fears abandonment. Because of this, attachment often focuses more on what another person provides than who they are. Validation, comfort, emotional safety. This creates dependency, and dependency is often mistaken for love. Amir Levine explores this through attachment theory. In Attached, he explains that early emotional experiences shape adult relationship patterns. Some people develop secure attachment. Others develop anxious or avoidant patterns. Anxious attachment fears rejection. It seeks closeness constantly. Avoidant attachment fears dependence. It creates distance. These patterns influence relationships deeply and often unconsciously. Anxious attachment can feel intense. Constant thinking about the other person. Fear of losing them. Need for reassurance. But intensity is not proof of love. Sometimes it is proof of fear. Levine argues that many relationship problems are not caused by lack of affection, but by incompatible attachment patterns. People seek emotional regulation through relationships, and when security feels threatened, reactions intensify. This is where Erich Fromm adds another perspective. In The Art of Loving, Fromm argues that love is not something you fall into. It is a skill, an art that requires practice, maturity, and self-awareness. Most people focus on being loved. Very few focus on learning how to love. Fromm believes this is the central mistake. Love requires discipline, patience, humility, awareness, and above all, the ability to give without turning the other person into an object of possession. This distinction changes everything, because attachment often says, "I need you so I can feel complete." Love says, "I choose to care for your growth while remaining whole myself." Together, these 3 books reveal a powerful insight. Love expands freedom. Attachment restricts it. Love encourages growth. Attachment fears change. Love creates connection. Attachment creates dependence. The first principle is emotional neediness. Attachment often begins with emotional emptiness. A person feels incomplete internally and seeks another person to fill that absence. This creates pressure. The relationship becomes responsible for emotional stability. Peck warns that this creates unhealthy dynamics, because no relationship can permanently compensate for lack of self-development. Real love requires two individuals, not one identity dependent entirely on another. The second principle is fear. Attachment is heavily driven by fear. Fear of abandonment, fear of rejection, fear of being alone. These fears create controlling behaviors, jealousy, possessiveness, constant reassurance seeking. The person is not simply loving, they are protecting themselves from loss. Love operates differently. Love accepts uncertainty. It cannot guarantee permanence, but it chooses openness despite risk. The third principle is growth. Peck repeatedly emphasizes that genuine love supports evolution. Growth is sometimes uncomfortable. People change. Priorities shift. Truth emerges. Attachment often resists this, because change threatens stability. Love supports development, even when it requires adjustment. This is one of the clearest distinctions. Attachment asks, how do I keep this person close? Love asks, how do I help this person become fully themselves? The fourth principle is identity. Attachment often merges identity. Without you, I am nothing. This sounds romantic, but it creates fragility. Fromm argues that mature love preserves individuality. Two complete individuals choosing connection, not two incomplete people trying to escape loneliness. The stronger your individual identity, the healthier your relationships become, because connection is based on choice, not desperation. The fifth principle is control. Attachment seeks predictability, control over outcomes, control over emotions, control over behavior. This creates tension. People begin managing each other instead of understanding each other. Love requires trust, not blind trust, but acceptance that another person cannot be fully controlled. This creates emotional openness instead of emotional management. The sixth principle is self-awareness. Many people are unaware of their attachment patterns. They believe jealousy equals passion, neediness equals closeness, possession equals commitment. But awareness changes interpretation. You begin to recognize when fear is driving behavior. This creates space for healthier response. Levine emphasizes that understanding attachment style reduces confusion. You stop personalizing every emotional reaction. You begin seeing patterns instead. The seventh principle is loneliness. Many people enter relationships primarily to escape loneliness, but loneliness avoided is different from connection created. Fromm argues that the inability to be alone often weakens love, because relationships become tools of escape rather than genuine connection. Paradoxically, the ability to tolerate solitude strengthens relationships, because you are choosing connection freely, not using it to avoid yourself. The eighth principle is emotional maturity. Love requires emotional discipline, the ability to communicate honestly, to tolerate discomfort, to remain present during conflict. Attachment often reacts impulsively. It seeks immediate reassurance, immediate resolution, immediate certainty. But mature love tolerates ambiguity. It remains stable even when emotions fluctuate. The ninth principle is freedom. Love allows breathing room. Attachment tightens control. One creates safety through trust. The other attempts to create safety through restriction. But restriction eventually creates resentment. People need emotional space to grow. Without freedom, connection weakens. The 10th principle is intention. Why are you in the relationship? To receive validation, to avoid loneliness, to feel secure, or to genuinely care for another person's growth and well-being? This question changes everything, because intention shapes behavior, and behavior shapes the relationship itself. There is also a deeper cultural problem. Modern culture often romanticizes unhealthy attachment. Obsession is presented as passion. Emotional instability is presented as depth. Dependence is presented as devotion. But these dynamics often create suffering, not connection. Real love is quieter, more stable, less dramatic, but also deeper, because it is built on awareness rather than fear. Another important insight is that attachment narrows perception. When fear dominates, people stop seeing each other clearly. They begin seeing threats instead. Signs of rejection, signs of withdrawal, signs of abandonment. This creates anxiety. Love restores clarity, because it is less focused on possession and more focused on understanding. There is also the role of acceptance. Love accepts imperfection. Attachment often idealizes. Idealization creates unrealistic expectations. Eventually, reality breaks the illusion, and disappointment follows. Love sees clearly from the beginning. It accepts flaws without denying reality. This creates stability. Over time, the distinction becomes obvious. Attachment asks, "How can this person make me feel safe?" Love asks, "How can we grow honestly together?" One is driven by fear, the other by intention. One seeks possession, the other seeks connection. And this may be the deepest difference of all. Attachment tries to hold on tightly because it fears loss. Love allows freedom because it trusts connection. That does not make love easy. In fact, it may make it harder, because real love requires maturity, self-awareness, responsibility, and the courage to care deeply without turning another person into emotional property. The question then becomes, are you loving or are you attaching? Because the difference shapes every relationship you have. That was why most people confuse love with attachment, explored through The Road Less Traveled, Attached, and The Art of Loving. Which idea resonated most with you? Growth, freedom, or emotional maturity? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like, subscribe to 10-Minute Books, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next deep dive into powerful ideas. Because real love is not about possession. It is about helping another person become more fully themselves.